Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
I should have added a third R to the sort of slogan for our show for this episode, because in this episode, we are also going to recommend some movies.
Yes.
We thought it would be fun. We're going to start doing this at the beginning of every month. So within the first week of every month, we're going to have a monthly recommendations episode, which we have broken into 6 categories. And Adam wasn't able to join us for this episode, unfortunately. But generally, with 6 categories, we'll each pick 2 movies, kind of rotate through the categories to recommend that are available on streaming for 5 of the categories at least. And then one of the categories just being a new movie, which
might be in theaters,
could be on streaming, could be in theaters, but just if you're looking for something that's new that came out in 2022 in the last month or two, that'll be a category here as well. So I think we can dive right into this. I don't really, we don't have to introduce the movie like we normally do at the beginning.
No, we don't. And Adam told us what his selections were for this month. So we'll just give you those. And again, this should just be a pretty nice, kind of quick, easy episode at the beginning of every month. Give you 6 movies to check out that we think you'd like. It's kind of almost like an extension of the roundup episodes where we talk about the other stuff we're watching. The only real requirement is that it's on one of the major streaming services.
That's right. Do we want to introduce the categories before we get started, or just kind of go through them?
Just go with let's just go with them as they come.
So the first one was assigned to me this month, which is a new movie, and for that, there's a Richard Linklater gem just sitting on Netflix for everybody to watch. It came out in April. It's called Apollo 10.5: A Space Age Childhood. We do have a review out for this movie that Dylan and I watched, and we both liked, and I loved.
Yep.
And it's just a wonderful sort of laid back rotoscope animation movie about Richard Linklater melding like fantasy and memory of growing up in Houston during the space race, where like his parents and everybody he knew worked for NASA. And it's kind of just about memory and Jack Black narrating just like everyday life for this, 4th, 5th grade kid.
And it really gets you to feel just like the optimism and the wonder that, growing up as a kid in that era, they had no doubt that we're going to go to space. By the time I'm an adult, we'll probably be living on Mars. Like they thought it was all ahead of them. And it does a really good job of capturing that mood. And I really liked it.
Absolutely. So again, just sitting right on Netflix for everybody to check out. So the next category is, this one's a classic, and we define this as just a little bit of a restriction. It can't be from this century, which I know for people older than us might think that's even too new for classics. I mentioned this to my mom, and she said she doesn't even consider The Sting to be a classic because it came out when she was like 15 or something, or like 12, 15, somewhere in that range. And she thinks of classics as like old Hollywood, like Humphrey Bogart movies. Which are also classics. But for us, we think if it's been out for over 20, like The Matrix is a classic.
It's been out for 20 plus years. And its impact, I think it can be called a classic.
Absolutely.
However, we might, going forward, we might create an extra category for the real old Hollywood classics because, those don't get a lot of love. But for now, there's just one classic per month. And what is that?
Right. And the classic that I'm recommending for this month is My Cousin Vinny, which is currently on HBO Max. And if you've never seen this movie, I'm recommending it highly right now. Dylan has never seen it. That's also part of the reason I chose it for this month. I was kind of waffling between a few movies, and this was one of them. And I thought, Dylan's never seen this, so this is another chance for me to just kind of poke him a little bit and say, watch My Cousin Vinny. This is a wonderful courtroom comedy from 1992. So it's also the 30th anniversary this year of My Cousin Vinny. So great time to watch it, starring Joe Pesci and Marissa Tomei. Marissa Tomei won Best Actress at the Oscars for this. She is wonderful in this movie.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, and if you haven't heard of it or if you haven't seen it and you need a little refresher, 2 carefree pals traveling through Alabama are mistakenly arrested and charged with murder. Fortunately, one of them has a cousin who's a lawyer, Vincent Gambini, a former auto mechanic from Brooklyn who just passed his bar exam after his 6th try. When he arrives with his leather-clad girlfriend to try his first case, it's a real shock for him and the Deep South. So it's a courtroom drama, it's a comedy, it's a fish out of water comedy. It's Joe Pesci doing something you haven't seen him do much of. It's Marissa Tomei in one of my favorite performances of all time.
Nice.
This is a movie that really kind of has something for everyone in it, and I highly, highly recommend it.
All right. On to the next category. This is Hidden Gem. And I had this one to choose, and it was pretty easy. I went with Hunt for the Wilderpeople, which is available on Netflix. It's been there for a while. We've mentioned this many times on this podcast. It's just a fantastic under the radar. It is literally like the definition of a hidden gem.
Yeah.
And I know, Nate, you've been on this bandwagon for a long time. So what do you think makes it a hidden gem? Please elaborate.
Well, first off, it's written and directed by Taika Waititi, who has become much more famous since this movie came out. This came out in 2016. It takes place in New Zealand. It's got Sam Neill, kind of an unknown kid, pairing up for a sort of buddy road comedy, essentially, if you're talking structurally. And Taika Waititi became more famous after doing Thor Ragnarok and Jojo Rabbit. Everybody and he's been like doing stuff with The Mandalorian and with Our Flag Means Death on HBO Max. He's huge now.
Yeah.
But
this was before all that, or kind of the launching.
This was his 3rd movie, and this is just the ultimate indie comedy.
Yeah.
It's
really well written characters
and hilarious, great performances. And I was fortunate enough to see this in theaters in 2016 when it came out, and I've watched it probably like close to 10 times since then. And
it went on Netflix. Oh, it's been there for a while, but
and it's just stayed there.
Yeah, and I think it's when I checked it out on Netflix just to make sure it was on there still. It's under like the most liked cat. It has that badge, most liked. So the people that do watch it, it's very like highly regarded. So if you haven't seen it, for real, I haven't heard any bad things from anyone who's seen this movie.
Yeah. And when we were doing these categories and kind of deciding the 6 that we wanted to do, and we decided on Hidden Gem, this was the first movie that came to mind. Just whenever somebody says hidden gem, Hunt for the Wilderpeople for me.
So there you go. And then our next category, which was also my responsibility, is foreign movie. And this was also pretty easy because there is a movie from India, RRR, that dropped on Netflix a couple weeks ago. And it's from India, so it's Bollywood, but it's technically Tollywood, a different region of India. But it's that style. I had never really watched any Bollywood movies or Indian movies.
Me neither.
But we were hanging out. We gave it a chance. It's 3 hours long, and it is one of the most like unabashed, action-packed. Like it just lights a fire in you. It's epic. It's epic. It goes so hard on everything, every scene. Me and Nate watched the first 90 minutes. Because we started a little late, and it's a 3-hour movie with subtitles.
There's also a clear intermission or kind of break in the middle.
So we just watched the first 90 minutes together, and completely honestly, we counted there were 5 scenes in those first 90 minutes that like blew us away, that are in contention for like scene of the year for the Movie Talk Awards next year. Like
it's that Film entertaining. And Enter Awards, Dylan.
The Speak Film and Enter Awards. Yes, the Movie Talk Awards are no more. So the first annual Speak Film and Enter Award, but very exciting. So just so entertaining. I mean, just so entertaining, entertainment, adrenaline, straight to the vein, and it's just a lot of fun. I couldn't think of any other movie to do for foreign movie than RRR.
Yeah, honestly, this could have fit into 3 of our categories.
Yes,
right now because it is new.
There's a decent chance we'll be doing a review episode of it as well. Yeah. So this isn't the last you're going to hear about RRR.
Very good chance.
It's on Netflix. It's free. And if you're willing to deal with the subtitles and the runtime, like you will give it 20 minutes, you'll understand, and you'll probably be like wanting to stand up and cheer. Like it's
also like the prologue is 40 minutes long. And at the end of the prologue is just one of the most like adrenaline inducing scenes. And if you get to the end of that and don't just feel jacked and want to keep watching this movie, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. But We tried. If
Right.
you spend 40 minutes, you get to the prologue and you're like, nope, not feeling it. Well, then I guess this recommendation wasn't for you. But I'm fairly confident that by the 40-minute mark, you will absolutely want to watch the rest of the movie.
Yeah, definitely.
All
So
right.
then that brings us to family movie, which was Adam's responsibility. And Adam is
Mhm.
recommending one of the great family movies of all time, The Princess Bride, which is just sitting there on Disney Plus for anyone to enjoy.
Yes, indeed. I mean, that could have also fit in the classic category. Came out
For
around the same
sure.
time as My Cousin Vinny, but I mean, it's just one of the best family movies of all time. I know a top 5 movie all time for you.
Yeah, I've got it as my number 3, I think.
Indeed.
So
So you don't need more of a recommendation than
it's a
that.
masterpiece. It's hilarious. It's everything. It's a perfect movie.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I feel like most people have kind of heard of it or probably heard of it already, but they might not have known that it was on Disney Plus. So there you go.
No, absolutely. And then also, Adam threw out a couple suggestions, and we won't talk about it very much. But My Neighbor Totoro is
Yes.
also available on HBO Max. Fantastic family movie as well. You can't
If you're
miss with
looking for
either
something,
one
yeah,
of
I feel
those.
like fewer people have probably seen My Neighbor Totoro than The Princess Bride. So if you're
Hmm.
looking for something with the whole family and you've never seen My Neighbor Totoro, definitely check that out too.
For sure.
And last but not least, we got something that's just going to be some plain fun. If you're just looking for a good old time watching a movie, popcorn movie.
Well, so I don't know about plain fun. It's kind of popcorn movie can be interpreted a few different
Right.
ways. Like is Braveheart a popcorn movie? Probably when it came out, that would count, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
call that a barrel of laughs. But
Fun doesn't
um,
need to be laughs all the time.
no. So popcorn movie. Adam suggested the action movie Nobody, which is available on HBO Max, starring Bob Odenkirk. That is a very fun movie. If you like Bob Odenkirk, you'll like that. It's a good action movie. However, there were some other ones that were out there that I just felt like I wanted to mention, and this one specifically, Road to Perdition. It's available on Netflix. It's from 2002, starring Tom Hanks. I mean, really, it has a killer cast. It's
Oh,
got
yeah.
Tom Hanks, Paul Newman, Jennifer Jason Leigh, a very young Daniel Craig before he was Bond,
That's right.
um, and Jude Law in one of my favorite Jude Law performances.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it's kind of a throwback 1930s gangster movie, father-son relationship. A mob enforcer's son in 1930s Illinois witnesses a murder, forcing him and his father to take to the road and his father down a path of redemption and revenge. And to me, this just feels like, big actors, kind of a classic story. It just feels like the type of big movie that isn't really made all the time anymore. And if you haven't
Yeah.
seen it, if you were too young to see it in theaters when it came out and just never got around to it, I'd recommend it. Or if if maybe you could have seen it in theaters, but you never have, or you maybe saw it once and were like, actually, how was that movie? I would say check it out again. I watched it recently and I just think it's a solid, well built, big Hollywood movie. So that's why
All
I
right.
went with it. And before we wrap this up, another contender for popcorn movie was the original Jurassic Park. We know that the new
Yes.
one is coming out this week, and the original is always a good time, and that is available on HBO Max, I
Yeah.
believe. So
The
yeah,
first 3 are all on HBO Max.
yep. So we gave you a couple options for popcorn movie. But yeah, so there we go. Those are the recommendations. Was there anything else that you wanted to throw out there as far as worth checking out before we wrap up the show?
I mean, I'm gonna save those for some other episodes, provided they're still on streaming.
Nice, absolutely. And you know what? If you didn't listen to our Netflix or our Stranger Things review episode, Stranger Things is still sitting right there. You can't go wrong. If you haven't checked
Right.
out season 4, go for it.
Yep.
Is it my turn to put a wrap on the show?
It is.
All right. Your friendship is more valuable than this life.